What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people make that you wish they would not make?
Yeah, the biggest one is not starting early enough. I've never had a client come into the office and go, man, I wish I'd have started later, saving their life. It just doesn't happen that way. So starting early, there's always a reason not to, right? You graduate from college, get that first job, and you got a crappy car, and you want to save up and buy a new one, and then save up to buy that first house, and you have kids, and when daycare's over, I'll start saving more. And there's always something going on that when it's over, you'll start saving. And then you wake up one day and you're 50 and won't retire in 15 years, and you don't have enough money.
Welcome to another episode of Best of Johnston County, brought to you by Breeden Law Office. Our host, Jonathan Breeden, an experienced family lawyer with a deep connection to the community, is ready to take you on a journey through the area that he has called home for over 20 years. Whether it's a deep dive into the love locals have for the county or unraveling the complexities of family law, Best of Johnston County presents an authentic slice of this unique community.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Best of Johnston County Podcast. This is your host, Jonathan Breeden, and my guest today is a longtime friend of mine, Cleveland resident, financial advisor extraordinaire, community service person who does a ton for this county, Chris Key. Welcome, Chris.
Extraordinary might be a push, but thanks for
having me. Right. Well, I tell you, I don't know if it's a push or not. So anyway, introduce yourself. Tell the court. I'm used to being in court, a lawyer, right? I'm sitting here. I'm not in court. I'm actually recording a podcast in my office. Your name and where you're from, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Chris Key, originally from Sanford, North Carolina, so not too far from here. I went to NC State, diehard fan, go Pack. After that, moved out to the Johnston County area and started my business here, financial planning, investments. Company name is Sarah Wealth Management.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess when you first came here, you were with Edward Jones?
Yep. Started with Edward Jones in Smithfield and did that for 6 years and then made the transition to my own firm in 2010.
Okay. All right. So when did you move to Johnston County?
Moved to Johnston County in 1998.
Okay. I got you. And why did you move to Johnston County?
So no grand reason. I had a buddy of mine from NC State who had a place out in Clayton that he was renting. He needed a roommate. I needed a cheap place to stay, so I moved out to Clayton. I had no intention of staying here at the time, but I just kind of fell in love with the county as I stayed here for a few years and decided to stay.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about what your office does. And you have several advisors who work for you. So what are some of the services y'all provide to the citizens?
Yes, we have 7 offices across North Carolina and Georgia now. The Smithfield office is kind of the headquarters of all that. And my individual clients all work out of the Smithfield office. So we work with individual clients, business owners, nonprofits to invest their funds, financial planning. I tell clients, especially the families, allow me to be your family CFO. Let us take care of all the financial things that your family either thinks about or doesn't think about, because they don't have time or don't make the time. Let us take those off your plate so you can be a parent, husband, a great employee, whatever it is you want to be out there in the world, and let us handle those for you. So that's kind of what we do.
Okay, yeah, and I rent space. The Breeden Law Smithfield office is there in your building on South 3rd Street, about 2 blocks from the courthouse, so very convenient for us, and right across from a Travel Odyssey, the travel agents that I use all the time and do a great job, Barbara King and Renee there as well. So let's talk about some of the things. We've got a lot of young families and that listen to this podcast. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people make that you wish they would not make?
Yeah, the biggest one is not starting early enough. I've never had a client come into the office and go, man, I wish I'd have started later in life. It just doesn't happen that way. So starting early, there's always a reason not to, right? You graduate from college, you get that first job, and you got a crappy car, and you want to save up and buy a new one, and then save up to buy that first house, and you have kids, and when daycare's over, I'll start saving more. And there's always something going on that when it's over, you'll start saving. And then you wake up one day and you're 50 and won't retire in 15 years, and you don't have enough money. So saving early is number 1, and then emotional investing is number 2, which is probably my biggest job. Anybody can look at investments and look at how they do, and there's a lot of online platforms today, but individual Americans, investors tend to make emotional investment decisions, which cost them a lot of performance. The average 401k over the last 20 years has earned 4% when the market has earned closer to 10. That's because those employees are making choices that are emotional instead of logical with what's going on in the market.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you were going to say the opposite.
Mm-mm.
So anyway, they see the market go down, and so they pull out,
Mhm.
and then they don't put in.
Yep.
That's where, and instead of just sort of set it and forget it, that's sort of been my mantra
Right.
in what investments I do. I don't even get a paper statement anymore, and I hardly ever, unless I need the tax documents, I don't really sign in to look. I've got a plan. I'm trying to stick to it, and I'm not looking at whether it's going up and down every day or every month, because I don't need it now.
Right. One other big common mistake is they get their yearly statement or whatever, they look at it, look at the investment options they have and the performance, and they go, wow, that mutual fund did really great last year. I'm going to move half my money into that. Well, traditionally, something that performed so well last year, historically, might not do quite so well this year. They're making emotional choices off of information that it's just information and their emotional choices.
Yeah, and we here in the office, we're doing divorces and stuff. We work with a lot of finances and financial affidavits, and we look at what people spend money on. And one of the things I see people making a mistake on is they're not saving correctly for retirement or saving at all, but they have an $800 car payment. And that money could be going into a 401k or an IRA. A lot of people are giving up the match the employer would give them if they would just do it, because they're paying for this car that's a depreciating asset that ultimately is going to be worth zero. And I try to convince them otherwise, but I don't often have a lot of success.
It's a tough call, and you work with employees for companies. We do 401k plans as well, and you got about a 30% participation rate, 33 to 35 on average in those retirement plans that are matching. And the employers want you to try to push that and get those numbers up, and we do as well. But it's kind of hard because a lot of those people live paycheck to paycheck, and they put that money in, they get the matching, and then they take it out in a few months because they have an emergency, and they pay a 10% penalty and taxes and all that. So without some kind of basic foundation, a little bit of savings on the side, it's difficult for them to start even contributing and getting the match when they're just going to try and take it out a few months later.
Right. So is one of the things that your office and your advisors do work with people on budgeting? You said, let me be your family's CFO. Is that one of the things you do, is help them develop a budget and maybe point out where they could cut?
Yeah, I mean, we help in every area of a client's financial lives. It affects their finances, and that's something, that we get into. And there's areas like estate planning that we have conversations about, and then refer them to an attorney. They can send it back to their attorney. But business succession planning, budgeting, investments, insurance, pretty much any area you can think of. The budgeting we get into, we absolutely provide that. It's for a lot of our younger clients who, again, especially just married or just had a kid, the big changes they have, it changes the budget, and they just don't realize the changes that are being made. I mean, if you got a couple who's living, they have an apartment or a house, and they dual income, and then they're making things work, and then they have a baby, and they're excited, as well they should be, but they don't look at the financial ramifications of that. They don't notice until it's too late that the credit cards all of a sudden have grown to $4,000 when they didn't carry a balance before. They just don't look at changes to the budget when life changes happen.
Well, and I've been there, and I remember that. My wife and I had a baby, and then we bought the house we live in now, and that house and that baby were expensive.
Yes.
And it was tough for a little while.
It's toss-up, which is more expensive, right?
Right. Yeah. And it was, I know how that goes, and it's tough. I saw the vice president the other day was citing a study where she said that 54% of Americans could not pay an unexpected $400 car repair bill without going to a credit card.
Yeah.
And I have been there before. I'm very fortunate that I'm not there now, but I have been there before. So I knew what she was talking about. And hopefully Americans will go back to saving more. I read the other day that savings are now down. They went up during COVID, and now they're down kind of far, and that's a little scary.
Yeah, we're back down to at least 10-year lows, and the credit card debt is going back up. So we're definitely going in the wrong direction, and I hate to see that, but it's a chronic problem in our country. I don't know the root of it. People aren't making enough, or they're spending too much, or whatever the reason is. We got to get better. But I have clients that people talk about, you got to make a lot of money to save money and to invest and all that. But I have clients who are school bus drivers or school bus mechanics and teachers, and that they live frugally when they needed to. They saved money. They started saving early. And when they retired, they had million to, in one case, even $3 million. So I know it's not what people are making today. I know it's tougher today than it was 3 or 4 years ago and all that, but people can still make it happen. And it's hard, right? You want to be frugal, you want to save money, but your neighbors get the new car or the bigger house, or the kids get the new clothes or whatever. And it's hard not to make those choices.
Well, and I don't know. I read a quote the other day, and I don't even know who it's from, and I don't even think I'm going to get it right. But the gist of it was, you can suffer the pain of discipline or suffer the pain of disappointment.
Yes.
And saving and investing for the long term requires discipline, because it is easy to go out to eat. It is easy to buy the new car. It is easy to go to that concert when you probably should be saving for the long term if you don't have extra money.
Yeah. And the thing is, and I've told a number of younger people we work with this, that discipline, that the pain of, we'll call it the pain of trying to save, if you start early, that only lasts 10, 12 years or so, which may seem like a long time, but in the lifespan, it's really not. And then all of a sudden, you've got a foundation of saving. You've got money there. It's growing. It's doing well. And then when you start getting those raises, you don't have to save those raises anymore. You can start spending those and enjoying life. And by the time you're in your 20 or whatever, after college or after high school, you can go out and enjoy the things you want to without having to worry about that financially. Whereas those people who don't start early, they have that worry the rest of their lives. Right. So if you can do the right thing for 12, 15 years, you can enjoy spending money the rest of your life. Whereas a lot of people can't truly enjoy spending that money.
Right. Well, and it's never too late to start. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're 50 years old and you're not where you want to be and you haven't gotten going, it's not too late to start. You might not get where you could have gotten if you started at 25, but you got to do something, because Social Security is not a lot, and it will be there, but the amounts it's going to be there at with the Social Security Trust Fund headed towards insolvency and the next 20 years, if you listen to what they say, they can make some changes and fix it. They just haven't. It may not be what it's projecting now, and it's really not enough to live. I mean, not the life that you're used to living as a working adult.
Right, it's not. And you're right. You can start at any time. I tell clients, whenever you get in and develop that retirement plan or whatever that plan is, it's the best time for you to get in. If you come in at 50, you might not, we run the numbers, it might not be the retirement that you want, but let's look at what the realistic retirement looks like. Let's see what we can do to alter that in the next 10 or 15 years. And people who are counting on retirement or even pensions, there's a lot of people still getting a pension out there or planning on that retirement. You run those numbers and you retire at 65 and you've got Social Security and your pension and everything looks great. That's fine and dandy. But 10 years down the road, we know from the last 3 years what inflation does to our spending. That pension is not going to go up with inflation. Social Security is not going to go up as much as inflation.
Right.
It might be enough when you first retire, but is it going to be enough 10 years later? And if you don't have some private assets there on the side to start drawing off of in the future, you might find yourself in a hole.
No doubt. And the main thing is, it's not too late to start. And if you don't have a plan and you don't have a goal and you've not worked with somebody like Chris Key and his advisors or anybody else, you need to do it. It's worth a call. They'll all give you a consult for free, won't charge you. Nope. And you need a plan, because, just going along is not a plan. And you need a plan. And we live longer now with medical technology and investments. The odds are, if you live, and this is another thing I saw, and this may be wrong, if you live to 60, you have a better chance of living to 90 than you do. Something like, if you're alive at 60, there's a high percentage chance you will still be alive at 90. And it keeps going up with medical improvements. And I don't know exactly what it was. Anyway, I got too much stuff in my head.
Somewhere in there. 100,
but just don't assume you're going to be dead at 70.
You're going to live a long time after 60, probably. That's a long time to fund life without a job.
Correct.
Have family law questions? Need guidance to navigate legal challenges? The compassionate team at Breeden Law Office is here to help. Visit us at www.breedenfirm.com for practical advice, resources, or to book a consultation. Remember, when life gets messy, you don't have to face it alone.
So anyway, let's talk a little bit about some of the community service you've done. I know you were extremely involved in bringing the Miracle League Park to Smithfield, and tell the listeners how you got involved in that, how that sort of evolved, because that really is an amazing story, and you did a ton of work on that. And this community owes you and the people on that board with you a tremendous debt of gratitude, because that is a tremendous park. It's at the Smithfield Community Park, right next to the Smithfield Aquatic Center. If you've not been there, it's a Miracle League Park. It's a baseball field for children with disabilities, and it's for all children, regardless of their disability. And it's a tremendous asset for the county. And if you've not been out there to watch the kids play, you should do that. They have games in the fall on Saturdays, I think, spring and fall, in September and October. And then I think they also do it in March and April on Saturday mornings, approximately. So tell the listeners a little bit about that.
So I was with Partnership for Children in Johnston County, which is a program that works with pre-K education in the county. And we were looking to build a park for special needs kids, a play space. The closest one was Cary and Raleigh. We have a lot of kids here who don't play the same way as other kids did, and then they have somewhere to go. So we were looking for a space, and we wanted to do a capital campaign to build that. And we came across another organization, the Miracle League, which is headed by Monty McLamb, fantastic gentleman, does a lot of work for that group, who were looking to raise money and build the special needs baseball field. So we said, we're serving the same group of people, why have two capital campaigns? We kind of merged the two and did a 6-year capital campaign to raise at first about $1.5 million, $1.6 million. We've raised another $200,000 or $300,000 since then, ongoing, to build the park and the baseball field, which are right there together on the same piece of property, which is the only place in the East Coast that has them both in the same place. So it's a really cool facility. A lot of therapists will use the park to take kids through there and work with them in there's a whole lot of different areas that they can go through and work with different types of abilities. Of course, the Miracle League is there. They have games in the spring and fall. They can always use volunteers. Each of those players has someone their buddy for the game that helps them bat, helps them go around the bases, helps them in the outfield, and protects them from the ball. And it's a very special experience. If there's any families, individual ball teams, or Boy Scout units, but my unit goes out there every year and volunteers, that wants to go out and volunteer, it is a really special experience. I highly recommend people to look that up.
Right, and I'm hoping I can get up with Monty McLamb and have him on here to talk about the Miracle League. I met him at the Johnston County Awards dinner that's done by the Johnston Now magazine. Yep. He was recognized as a Citizen of the Year, and he is a fascinating individual with a ton of energy. And I just left smiling after meeting him. And they had several of the Miracle League athletes there at that award ceremony, and it was really a lot of fun. And I'm hoping that we can have him on this podcast and talk some more about that. And so, when did it get built?
Oh man, that's probably about 5 years. It was pre-COVID. Everything's pre-COVID.
Everything's right, no doubt.
So I want to say 5. It's probably been 7 years ago now that we completed construction. And so that was a great day, a big relief off of the capital campaign committee. Very exciting. Everything looks great. I mean, the park is really growing into its own. The ball field is being used. They still want to do a concession stand out there. So there's some stuff that we took out because we're lower budget that we're trying to put in as we go along. But the facilities are fantastic.
Well, that's awesome. And the kids are having a great time, and the league is growing, and it seems to have more kids every year, and adults. It's not just children. There's a lot of adults out there playing.
There are. It's great. I think that we all have, a lot of us have our kids or grandkids in ball leagues around the area here, especially in the Cleveland school area. And you go to the games, and they get intense sometimes, right? I mean, it's just the way ball is. I think everybody should go and just watch one of those games, because it's the exact opposite. Those kids are just happy to have somewhere that lets them on the field. They're happy to be able to make contact with the ball, even if it's with help. Right. They're happy to be able to get around and touch 4 bases and have their names called out. Everybody gets cheered for by everybody there. It's just special. People should just go and watch one of those games.
Yeah, no doubt. And I would encourage anybody to go out there and do it. It's a lot of great people and a great time. And you will not go there and not leave with a smile on your face. It's impossible. It's impossible to go out there and see that and not leave with a smile on your face. So I guess as we start to wrap up this episode of Best of Johnston County, what do you love most about Johnston County? You've been here for 25 years. You've raised a family here. You've started a business here. What do you love the most about Johnston County?
So, well, first of all, it's close to NC State, so I can make all the games.
I love the Wolfpack too.
That's right. All know that. But I mean, really, probably number one is the people of Johnston County. Again, I moved out here because I had a buddy who needed a roommate. I needed a cheap place to stay. But as I lived here and began to work here, there's just great people here in Johnston County. There's a lot of opportunity in Johnston County for, jobs, careers, business interests, real estate, you name it. There's opportunity here. We're close to Raleigh. We've got 40 and 95, not far from the coast, not far from the mountains, but we're not a big city yet. So there's whatever area you're looking at, there's an opportunity to grow it here. And I think that's fantastic. Those are probably the two biggest things that I'm excited about for the county.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. And if people want to get up with you in your office and some of the advisors that work with you, what's the best way to do that?
So you can look us up at AWM Advisor. That's our website. Call the office in Smithfield. The website also lists all other offices across the state and in Georgia. So depending geographically where you're at, we probably have someone pretty close to you. But yeah, look up awmadvisor.com. Check us out.
All right, no problem. And we'll try to have that in the show notes down below. And we want to thank Chris Key for coming on and being our guest today on the Best of Johnston County podcast. If you would do us a favor of liking or following or subscribing this podcast wherever you're seeing it, that would be great so that you don't miss another episode of the Best of Johnston County podcast. New episodes are posted every Monday and are going to be coming out. And if you've not listened before, go back and listen to some of the previous episodes that we've had with Adrian O'Neill, the Johnston County Parks and Rec Director, Patrick Harris, one of the Johnston County Commissioners, and some of the commissioner candidates that we've had on who are running for office this year about what their vision for the future of Johnston County will be, so that you'll know kind of what some of your leaders believe is going on and why they also love Johnston County. If you'd also do us a favor of leaving us a 5-star review down at the bottom, it will help with our visibility so other people will see this podcast and will know about the Best of Johnston County podcast so that they can learn why I love Johnston County as much as I do, why the guests who come on here and love Johnston County as much as they do, and why you who are listening love Johnston County as well. Johnston County is a great place to live, work, and play, and that's what we're trying to do is promote that on this podcast. So until next time, I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden. Thanks a lot.
That's the end of today's episode of Best of Johnston County, a show brought to you by the trusted team at Breeden Law Office. We thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing more interesting facets of this community next week. Every story, every viewpoint adds another thread to the rich tapestry of Johnston County. If the legal aspects highlighted raise some questions, help is just around the corner at www.breedenfirm.com.